Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Malorie, Bournazian, and Kim Karr. Malorie was 2018 Digital for Good winner, part of the 2019 Student Internship Program, and is now I Can Help's lead intern. She is a junior at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and is working towards a degree in journalism and media studies. Mal believes in the power of social media and wants to help inspire students to find their purpose through their passions. She is I Can Help's biggest cheerleader. She constantly works to foster the I Can Help family and challenges them to dream big. Malorie works very closely with Kim Karr, the co-founder. Kim was a middle school teacher for 13 years and co-founded I Can Help in 2013. She is a leading motivational speaker, curriculum developer, and leadership trainer. Kim is continuously working to make the world a better place and empower youth. She guides and supports her student internship program and has big plans for the future of I Can Help and Digital for Good. Kim is excited to work side by side with students to be stronger together and lead them to new opportunities greater than they could have imagined. This is a strong and powerful conversation today. We talked about why it's important to be a strong role model for your children, why you shouldn't ever apologize for having goals, or in essence, why we should stop feeling guilty for being ambitious women, how being a strong, confident, powerful woman translates in a relationship. Defining what you want is also defining what you don't want. Why is there more thought to leaving a relationship than entering it? What to do when you're thinking, how did I get here in a relationship? A relationship without respect is a huge red flag. We also talked about why we think people want to put genders in a box, and that we are teaching our children what is acceptable by what we tolerate as women, how important it is to be able to talk to your spouse or your significant other about your wins, and being unafraid to embrace your age. So much more, you guys. You are not a tree. You can change direction. And why women should be unapologetic about being themselves. This episode was the bomb, you guys. It was dope that Joy was laying down today. It was so good, so powerful, so empowering. You guys are going to love it. Well, guys, I have some really special guests today. We're going to talk about how to deal with online trolls and haters and just negativity in the social media space. So without further ado, I want to welcome Kim and Malorie to the show. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We're super excited to be here.
Well, I am very excited to have you. I think this is it's an awesome topic for sure, and one that really needs to be addressed more than it is. So I want to dive into how you ever started I Can Help and Digital for Good, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a teacher for 13 years. Saw there's major issues. All these students kept coming with all these awkward situations and moments and inappropriate things. But it really was someone made a fake Facebook page, one of the teachers at my school, and went on for like 2 weeks, had like 1,000 followers. Nobody supported the teacher. They all just kind of let it go on until finally one student brought it to my attention. And then that's how I was able to teach them how to what to do and how to take it down, and had that conversation of we need to have more people's backs and, support each other. And so then a year later, someone made a fake Instagram page and the exact same teacher. But this time, instead of having 1,000 followers, it had no followers. Instead of it going on for 2 weeks, it was shut down in 40 minutes. There were 30 students who actually went on there and respectfully commented in support of the teacher and taking it down. And so we now call those digital first responders. Is kind of what they're doing, is they're taking action.
Okay, so when, let's say as an adult, I'm online and I'm spreading positivity, I think I'm spreading love and good messages, but I have somebody that just wants to be confrontational online, what would be the first step to take?
Absolutely. So I would definitely say the first thing to do if you have somebody that is posting negative content on your page specifically and it's targeted at you, you can definitely block them. That's what's a great feature about social media, is you're really curating your content. So if you're seeing things that you don't want to see, you can definitely block that person if it is targeting you. If it's just content that you're not necessarily wanting to see, but it's not targeting you directly, or it's not necessarily spreading hate, you just might not believe in it, you can definitely unfollow that person. So definitely taking time every month to go through your followers and figuring out if everything that you're following is positive, and if it's something that you should be following or you shouldn't be following, and definitely taking that time to self-reflect and make sure that your content is positive.
Let's say that it is somebody in your space, you actually know them. Um, do we decide, are they hating or are they being critical? Can we respond humanely? And, because sometimes I think that's what people need, is the first response is just being loving, being humane, being kind, and maybe, maybe they need that, and that's kind of what they're looking for.
Right, absolutely. And that's a great thing about the comment section, is that's where you can have that open conversation and definitely talk about the content that's being posted. And if you feel that you can add positivity to the conversation, or you can talk about why you think what they're posting isn't correct and stuff like that, that's where you can have that open conversation in those comments. You can also tag people like I Can Help that can join the conversation and help you flow through it as well.
Oh, I love that.
And if they're friend, if you're a friend kind of a thing, sometimes I actually direct message people because I don't want to have that conversation on a public feed.
Right.
So then I just direct message them or text them, and then now have that conversation, because every text and anything typed can be totally taken out of context, and they can't hear your tone of voice and they can't hear your passion, right? So they can take that completely out of things. So that's something we're also trying to teach, is there's a time and place and how you kind of approach it too.
Well, so how would, let's say you do comment, and they continue to be negative, but it is someone maybe perhaps they go to your business. How do you keep from feeding that negativity? What are like some tips? Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if they're like, especially if it's your company, I mean, you have the right to, you should have some kind of a policy on your company site. And so if someone's not following your policy of what that's there for, you can actually remove them, and you can remind them like, hey, let's, stay with our policy of what we're trying to do here. I've had to do that with our own company, and remind people like, this is what our policy is, this is what you have to have. And people just need that friendly reminder, and that respect. Like, we're all here to try to respect and, share our opinions and share our comments, but making sure that we follow. There is policy in everything that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think really too, like I found that even in person, you can have, it's not social media, but you can have people criticize, hate on you because, whenever you do something or you're out there, if you're doing nothing, you're probably not going to get criticized. Let's just say that. So whenever you've put yourself out there, you may get criticized. So not feeding negativity to me is huge, and not dwelling on it. Don't take it with you when somebody is hating upon you. How can we get this stuff though? Let's say somebody is hating on you and it doesn't even make sense. Like they're saying things and it has nothing relevant to do with the topic at hand. How do you get that taken down? Let's say they say something very sexually explicit and you're like, oh my gosh, who is this person? How do we get, like, besides blocking the person, how do we get that off of social media completely?
So the best thing to do for that, I believe, is just reporting it. And if you can report it, but then if you can contact your friends and say, hey, can you report this as well? And you can tag I Can Help, and tag some of our interns, we are able to report it. And the more people that report it, the quicker it can get taken down.
Yeah, because I think that's crucial. What about reviews? Let's say somebody, reviews your business online, and maybe they've never even been there. They just are hating upon you for some reason. How do we go about getting rid of that?
Yeah, well, sometimes you can't get rid of it. Sometimes you just have to go in there and you have to say from your perspective of, basically you have to like stand up for yourself of like, I didn't know this, client. I've never had this client. We have no records of this client, because there are bots, there are fake people that do go on there and have it. And so the other thing, if you do know the client and they're negatively bashing on you, the other thing I suggest is honestly, because people, it is such a dark time right now and dark world, sometimes they're kind of almost losing it a little bit. And so it is reaching out to them in a positive way, saying, hey, how can I support you? Are you okay? Like, I'm sorry you feel this way. Like, because people need to be known that their feelings are valid, but at the same time, there's a better way of doing it and handling it, and that you can support them. Because most of the time when they say those kind of negative things, it's because they're going through something and they need to lash out on somebody. And unfortunately, they choose you or choose your company to do that lashing.
Hang on. Sorry, guys. I have my headphones today with the short cord, and I keep catching on it. Oh my gosh. We'll edit that out, hopefully. But what you were saying is, one thing that I do is I look at it as an opportunity sometimes to just say what I'm about, who I am, and how I can help somebody, and answer other people's questions and show some fortitude. So I remember I used to have a boss that sometimes would come at me like just from out of nowhere, very negatively. And at first I'd be like, but then I started seeing it as an opportunity to discuss things I'd been wanting to say, because he opened up the conversation. So I was just like this. So I think sometimes, maybe not sexually explicit conversation, but other types of conversation, you could look at it as an opportunity to state things that you want people to know about you, about your business, about your community. And I know sometimes people are stalked though, and like you said, these fake accounts, they keep coming back as Sahib and Teresa and all these different names, and it's the same person. How do we get that stopped? Is it the same method as you described before?
Yeah, 100%. It's the same method, and unfortunately, that's kind of how it works. But the tech companies do have almost like a 3-strike policy. If they keep having to take things down, then they do try to remove them, and if they're coming from the same VIP number and things like that. So they do try to have that, but unfortunately, there is so much technology that these bots kind of keep coming back with different VIP numbers. So
how did you
constant reporting?
How did you, Kim, get started into this space and create your companies again?
Yeah, I was just going back to that same story, and then from that story, I got asked to go speak at a summer camp, and from that, it was basically all these students kept coming up to me and basically going like, "Hey, like this is what happened." Like there was a group of students who actually stayed after their entire school was affected because a kid actually shot and killed himself over Skype. This is back in 2013. He shot and killed himself over Skype, but he called another person at their school. So now you have multiple families who are affected by this. And so they're like, we want to do something. We really feel like technology is, causing a lot of this.
Yes.
And it was more about education. So then that's when we started talking about it, educating. And then, Malorie heard about us when she was in high school, and she reached out. And then she actually got recognized for being a Digital for Good winner. We started recognizing students who are using it for the right reasons. Because yes, there are negative in anything you do, but then there's also positive things. So we wanted to showcase that because there's so many cool things that students are doing. And Malorie's project is unbelievable, what she got recognized for. And then now she's just climbed the ladder of from our company of now as our lead intern, and is working with, yesterday we had a work day with 60 students and mentors that came and helped us work on our projects.
Malorie, can you tell us a little bit more about your project and all the ins and outs?
Yes, absolutely. So when I was in high school, I was really involved in an anti-bullying club And during that club, I got connected with Tracy Crime Stoppers, because I'm originally from Tracy. And with talking with them, I learned a lot about human trafficking and how dangerous it was. And I actually had some friends that were negatively impacted by it because of social media. So I really saw that connection between human trafficking and social media and how it was targeting our area. So for my senior project, I joined the San Joaquin County Education and Outreach Human Trafficking Work Group. So I was able to work with our district attorney and to have that conversation about the connection between human trafficking and social media. So we created a group of students who actually gave a presentation to different parent groups, educator groups, and then foster care agencies about human trafficking and how it can be connected to social media and those connections. And then we were eventually selected as a Digital for Good winner back in 2018. And so that's how I kind of got connected with I Can Help Again and was able to showcase our work and then also become an intern after that.
That's awesome, Mallory. What got you like interested in that? Like why, what was it you were thinking, and what was in your heart at the time?
Yes, so when I originally chose that for my senior project, I had a family friend who was experiencing different things coming from human trafficking, and it was right in my area, and just seeing somebody that was my age and that came from a really similar family background where we were home alone a lot and we had like one parent in our household and things like that. I just felt like that was something that definitely could have happened to me and that I was definitely vulnerable in that situation. So I wanted to make sure that more students like my friend weren't taken advantage of online and pulled into that industry because of social media. So I wanted to make sure that that was stopping in our county and that also parents were aware of this and that it was being taught and educated in our schools and also in our different parent and teacher groups.
Wow, I want to commend you for that so much, that
Thank
you
you.
took action at such a young age and cared about your fellow person, that, realizing, yes, that can happen to me. If it happens to you, it can happen to me is
Right.
really the truth of it. And also, I've experienced some things. I've raised 3 children, and we had somebody trolling, trying to pick up one of my children, and I kept trying to explain to my child, no, this person's not legit. They were trying to portray themselves as somebody that they were not. Kind of like that grooming period of how people groom to draw you in. And so I think that's like a whole conversation to be had, and it's so important because you're young when you're in school, you're young, and you probably are a little more trusting, and not recognizing the dangers that are truly out there. So I'm so, just again, commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what like, as far as like teen suicide, Kim, I mean, like, do you know the numbers that, like, as far as like, I feel like social media has really increased the amount of, teen suicides and depression.
Yeah, so basically, yes, mental health has increased since social media started, but there's no direct connection, like social media is a reason for it, but 200% increase in suicide has happened for 10 to 14-year-olds. And I think the big reason on that is because they're being exposed to it, right? I didn't know what suicide was when I was 10, but they're being exposed to it because of the resources they're able to get on social media. There is a 37% increase in anxiety and depression. And it is connected, because you think about it, like, you're in a group chat and your group chat keeps blowing up, right? So then the anxiety kind of goes up. They're also worried about getting blocked and like what they're kind of sharing. And it's very interesting, having conversations with Malorie, even though she's 20, she like turning off her locations, that she didn't want one of her friends following her anymore, right? Like it was super anxiety driven for her. And it was like, why would you want this person following you more if you're not really friends with them? So like, that's all these anxiety things kind of build up, and you have to like really walk them through so that they can handle those anxiety moments. Is definitely there. Suicide is the number 2 cause of death now for 10 to 24-year-olds. And
Wow.
that's increasing. The only thing that beats it is accidents, like car accidents. And that's in most states. And I think the big reason is because they're comparing themselves to others online. I see your life online. I'm like, oh, it's so amazing. It's so, all these amazing things are happening for you, but you don't actually post the things that are not so great, because that's what we don't do. We don't post that. So that's the big reason. I think the suicide rate has definitely increased because of that.
Well, growing up in a household where my mom had manic depression and she was suicidal, it's a topic really close to my heart, and it really actually started in her teenage years, you know. And so I just want to say to anybody out there listening that this time will pass, and there's always tomorrow, and always a chance to try again, and each day is a day to start anew, and find that support out there that you need. And you know, like, just find that support, because support is everything. And I just want to speak to comparison again, because comparison is a thief of joy. And when we are God's masterpiece, we're created uniquely, and there's nobody out there like you. And so just, you're an original. Never compare yourself to somebody else. And it's always their best day on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. You know, nobody's really showing their sucky stuff and their worst stuff and the stuff that is reality. So I guess you could think of it like reality TV. It's smoke and mirrors, you know. So I was on a podcast the other day, and I just remember this quote. And when we compare ourselves, it's not that we're jealous. We might be like, maybe we wish we were doing that or whatever. But it's like counting somebody else's blessings instead of counting your own blessings. So I think when you focus on what you actually do have and who you actually are, that can change all of that around. So that was just my take on that. Would you speak to that a little bit, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited because actually Mallorie and I are doing a keynote presentation here right after this for the National Student Council, and our topic is going to be about being a victor over a victim, right? Are you above the line or are you below the line? And if you're above the line, you're going to be a victor and you can handle things. And if you're below the line, you're going to be a victim. Like, you can blame people. Just like I constantly talk to people about the time we're in right now, and they're like, yeah, this is what I was going to do, and this is what I was going to make happen. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and they sit there and make all these excuses, right? And it's like, you can either be a victim or you can be a victor and just pivot and start figuring this out. And Mallorie's, man, she's gone through so much during the COVID period, and I'm just so proud of how she's handled things, because she just remembered, like, her mom really raised her on very positivity kind of mindset, and just the stuff that she does on a daily basis reminds me as an adult, like, what I need to do. And it just reminds me of not, being above the line and constantly having that mentality of being a victor over a victim.
Now you're making my eyes sting a little, because I'm just thinking about Malorie and her prom. Did you guys have one?
Oh, a prom?
Like, were you helping out with prom, or like?
No, so yeah, I'm going into my junior year in college, so unfortunately I didn't have to do, or fortunately I didn't have to deal
Oh, you
with
didn't
that
miss that. What did you? I
situation.
misunderstood. What did you miss out on? Is your college year?
Right. Well, so this year was really tough for me. So in March, I decided I wanted to apply to be the lead intern for I Can Help, which has been my dream for the last 2 years. And so I applied, and I ended up getting selected by Kim to be the lead intern, which is amazing, and I'm loving every single second of it. But right when we went into our applications to do our internship program, I had just gone home for the COVID situation, and my mom ended up in the hospital. So she had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So during that time, I was her individual caregiver. So I was the only person taking care of her. And so I was trying to do interviews and take care of her. And I was going back and forth from the hospital, and I couldn't see her because of COVID. So it was just like this constant up and down situation, where we have a great graphic that we're using later, and it just shows that straight line that you think of when you think of achieving your dream.
Right.
But really, it's just a whole process that you're growing through as you go through it. So 3 weeks ago, she ended up passing away. And because of that experience, it really, really challenged me to step up and be a victor, because a lot of people did think that I was just kind of going to give up on school, maybe go live with family. But instead, I took care of everything. So I moved us out of our house. I went back to school, moved myself out of my apartment. And now I'm still going full-time, 16 credits at my college to graduate in those 4 years. And I've also been able to come back full-time with I Can Help, and kind of set an example to our interns that it doesn't matter what you're going through, we're still a family, and we can still rise above and be a victor.
Right, right. Because there's never a straight line to your dream,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Never.
never. Especially with
There's
young
always
kids.
obstacles. You can just depend on it,
Right,
you know?
exactly. You can let yourself get into that sinkhole where it's like one thing goes wrong and you really feel like, okay, if one thing already is going wrong right at the beginning, is it even worth it anymore? But if you keep seeing that image of the flag at the end that you can still achieve and just understanding that you're going to grow through the process and it's a journey, I think it really helps.
I love that. I love that so much.
Thank-
And I think it's asking yourself the question, how can I? You
Right,
know, how can I do this? And instead of what I don't have, it's the resources of what do I have? What do I have? And like focus on what you can control. And so, like in any dire situation, you have to focus on, you know, what are my resources and what do I have versus all the negativity, you know?
right, exactly. And that's why I was so lucky that I could surround myself with people like Kim and all of our interns who are going to want to see me succeed and keep me motivated to keep going. So I think it's definitely about surrounding yourself with positivity, and even going back to social media, having a feed curated that's going to make you happy and keep you motivated is just small things throughout your day that are going to help you.
I love that. How can adults be, I'm going to talk to you again, Mallory. How can adults be part of the solution instead of the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing personally that I see helps a lot is I know parents love to brag about their children on social media, which is incredible. But what I love to see is when parents are constantly commenting on other kids' profiles and hyping up that child and letting them know that they're proud of them. One thing that not every student has is somebody that's proud of them every single day. And so I think parents going online and just supporting other students and supporting other kids really adds to positivity, and creates just this positive environment for students to feel safe online. So it's something so small that you can do throughout your day, just commenting on other people's posts, and really just sharing some positive vibes with them. And it's just something so small. You don't have to create your own original content. You don't even have to worry about sharing anything. All you have to do is just let them know that you're there for them and that you're excited for them.
I love that. I love that. Kim, why should parents really think about the negativity that they may spew online as a fact that it's an example and that they're a role model? How is it affecting their teens?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I constantly, the number one thing students are talking about is like, man, I wish my parents, you know, even my grandparents, I've had a lot of actually interns talk about how they've had try to had conversations with their grandparents about what they're posting, because it just, they're already fighting a hard fight already at the age they are, because this is their world. And they're not, like, the adults are not helping. So it's so important. The big thing I try to tell adults is stay in your lane. Remember your lane and what your true goal is and where you're trying to be. It's not your lane. We have to just assume a best intent. And that's what we're trying to teach students, right? Is that they need to assume a best intent. And so it's so hard to like go backwards when we can't even get adults to do that too.
Yeah, yeah, completely. I just think that adults just need to really remember that the best teacher is their example, you know, that they're displaying. You know, it's not what you say, it's what you do that makes an impact. And your actions too are speaking louder than words. So if you get in a fight online, that's a teaching tool. You know, how can we, you know, flip that switch? I see behind you, you have this banner, positivity is my superpower. Speak to that, Kim.
Right? Well, it's true. Like, I mean, positivity should be your superpower. And Mallory's definitely a living example of this, because like I had I don't know, some intern totally turned me down and I'm like, oh, got rejected today. She's like, you didn't get rejected, you got redirected, right? Like you just have to like kind of flip your mentality. It's all about mindset and, you know, having that there, it's so important. And I just think that's, you know, big, like going back to what we talked about, it's like, you wouldn't drive, you're supposed to not drive when you're angry, but why are you posting when you're angry?
Mhm.
Take that pause and be able to stop back, right? And, you know, start thinking about when that right time is and figuring out, hey, I'm going to post when I am feeling good instead of posting when I'm angry. So it's just trying to switch the piece. And so same thing, a lot of adults want to be like, oh, teenagers are always on their phone and always using their device, but it's like they're on their device because they're usually doing something really cool. I actually was in Tahoe and I saw a kid on his device and I was like, you could tell he's in a meeting. And I looked at it and I'm like, what kind of meeting are you on? He's like, oh, I'm in a meeting in India. Like he was literally on a call, on a Zoom call with like in India. So I could have been that adult going, oh, there's another kid on his device and thought negatively, but I knew, I was like, this kid's doing something cool. He was totally asking questions like, what's the best food in India? So just in that mindset a little bit is what we need to do, is how you can use your superpowers in the best benefit.
I love that. I love what you said about not being rejected, but being redirected. Okay, let me just speak to that a little bit. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I had maybe cried, ugly cry, something terrible happened. And then it was the best thing that ever happened to me, So I just think the quicker you can learn to take rejection as redirection, the better off you're going to be. So I love that whole phrase. Love that.
Thank you. Yes, I constantly am applying for jobs and scholarships, and I can say I probably apply to like 30 scholarships a year, and I maybe get one, but that one makes it so worth it because you work so hard on all 30 applications to be able to just receive one and just know that you're constantly being redirected to try again next year. Like, it's just that constant motivation to keep trying.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love the keynote that you're going to be doing. I'm definitely all about that. I had, a very, when I was younger, a little younger than you, I was in a physically abusive marriage. And, I literally learned when I got out how to really reframe my thinking. Because I could have lived as a victim the rest of my life because I was victimized. We can be victimized, but we can choose not to live as victims. It's what you do about what happens to you that matters,
Yeah, 100%. I actually just watched on Netflix the gymnastics story, where they were all being physically abused by the doctor, and they changed. They're like, we are not going to be called a victim. We want to be called a survivor. So every
right?
time the lawyer brought them up, they didn't call them a victim. They called them a survivor.
I love that. I love that. I'm a domestic abuse survivor. And, being a survivor is very important in a time like now. You want to thrive as well, but surviving is all about, again, focusing on what you do have and not making excuses and not, playing a victim to why you can't do, be, or have what it is you want. It's finding solutions. And I love that you guys have found solutions to problems out there, because you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. I truly believe that. And so I just want to hear more ways that we can be solutions to the problems that are out there. So can you tell us, how can people help your organization and be a solution to the problem? Malorie.
Oh, sorry, my Wi-Fi is all cutting out. Okay. So definitely there's so many ways that you can be part of the solution. And I think one, especially if you're a parent, a great way that you can start that conversation with your children and make sure that your kids are being positive on social media and that you're promoting it in your own house is by having open conversations at dinner about what's going on online. I know that's one thing that we talked about during our human trafficking awareness group, is by starting that conversation with your kids where they feel safe that they can come to you if they are having a problem online or if they see something negative. It's really impactful because those kids are able to take that with them to friends who might not have that supportive household. So definitely having an open conversation in your house. And then also as an adult, one thing that you can do is share positive content, especially from children. So if you see kids who are using digital for good and that are creating online platforms that are positive, or that are creating change, sharing those platforms with other people and be able to push out their content for them is really, really helpful.
I love that. And can you speak, Malorie, to somebody out there that, that's your age or maybe even younger, maybe they think, who am I to do this? Or, who's going to listen to me because of my age? What would you like to say to them?
Yeah, I always say age is nothing but a number and that we aren't the future, we're the right now. So if you're a student, I know that we know how to use technology more than any adult pretty much that you probably know how to, or that you're in contact with. So definitely taking advantage of your resources and don't be afraid to ask for help. So get on a LinkedIn, message somebody from a tech industry and ask them for help and say, hey, I really want to do this, but I really want your support to be able to do it. Industry leaders really do want to help students because we are the next people that are going to be filling their jobs. So if you can reach out to them and ask for help, don't be afraid. I know one of our interns, Riley, Kim, do you want to share Riley's story about how she reached out on LinkedIn and got her book signed at Digital for Good?
Yeah, she actually she knew she was coming to Facebook headquarters where we had Digital for Good. And she remembered in class, she saw a TED Talk from someone from Facebook. So she wanted to reach out to Sheryl Sandberg, but she didn't know who Sheryl Sandberg actually was. She just knew she worked for Facebook. So she didn't know she was like the CEO of Facebook. So she LinkedIn her because we taught her how to use LinkedIn. And then literally her teacher's like, there's no way that person's going to respond back to you. And she's like, I've been taught my internship as a senior in high school to what's the worst thing can happen? They're going to say no or not respond. And so literally Sheryl responded back like a couple days later and said, here's my contact of my person. We're going to get you in. And so she got a book signed. She got to go meet with Sheryl Sandberg when she came to Facebook for our event.
See, I love that. Turn your nose into yeses and not to think that, just to see what the possibilities are. And I love how you had the courage, Malorie, to pursue and take action on what you thought was needed. Again, what would you say to teens out there to encourage them that they can be the change?
Yes, absolutely. I think any teen has the power to make a difference, especially right now using technology. Everyone's voice matters, and that you are fully capable of making a change. And that if you don't feel like your voice is strong enough, all you have to do is tag people who you look up to, who you think that are going to inspire you and that might be able to reshare your content, because your voice does matter and that it's going to impact somebody, even if you don't think it is. I know personally, as I said, my mom had metastatic breast cancer. And one thing I started doing was I started making Instagram stories every Monday called Mondays with Mal. It's something so simple that people could just DM me questions and I would answer them. And it'd be everything from small things to people who had a parent battling breast cancer would reach out to me and say, what do I do in this situation? And sometimes I don't share it publicly, but also sometimes I am able to share that advice publicly to somebody else who might need it. And so of course I'm not currently impacting the whole world by that one post, but I know that I'm impacting that one person's life who reached out to me. So your voice matters. Everything that you've gone through matters, and that it's going to make an impact on somebody else. And the best way you're able to make an impact is by sharing your real life experiences that you've gone through and how you've overcome them.
I love that. Totally love that. Now, I know, Kim, you probably have, since you are, the co-founder of this organization, you probably have some stories of people that have been bullied online, and I would like to hear one or two.
Yeah. This is when I always get choked up because, yeah, these are always hard, but they're at the same time inspiring. But
well, sometimes it just makes somebody feel like they're not alone if it's going on with them,
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, I think we're going back to the beginning, because this is the big thing. I'm always reminded by the people who kind of start it. And so going back, they made a fake Instagram page on these girls at my school, and it was called, Ugly Girls of Excelsior. And they just took pictures off their Instagram pages and started posting them up and just started saying, rating them negative 1,000 points and whatever else. And it was super hard. These girls were just devastated. They thought their world was ending. They're crushed. Piece about it was I didn't even get notified about it until the next day. But that night, students, because we had taught them how to handle things, they were able to go down and shut the page down. And a boy named Caden, I'll never forget this, a boy named Caden actually went and made a page called Beautiful Girls of Excelsior and took the same pictures and posted and started just saying this girl is, this is so-and-so, she's beautiful because of these reasons, something, please comment why you think they're beautiful. And so it just overpowered it. That negative is still there and it was still did the damage, but how cool is it that you have a young man who took the initiative to try to reverse that negativity piece? And I'll tell you that right there is what hits my heart every time when I do this, and like keeps me going. And we struggle on a regular basis of getting the right sponsors and the right people to partner with us, because we don't get money from Google and Facebook and Twitter. We just get the backing and the support. But it's these stories that keep us going, and we find cheap ways to be able to make our company keep, surviving.
That just really brings up to me a point of herd mentality where, if you're not like me, then you're not okay and I'm gonna pick on you. But I would just say that your superpower is the thing that makes you stand out and makes you different. And thank God, who wants to be like everybody else out there, right? And I was watching Ellen yesterday, and Aquafina was on, and she made up her name, guys, because she said that she was always so awkward. So it was just a very fancy way of saying awkward. And, she's on there winning Emmys and whatever, doing amazing things in movies and Hollywood. And I'm just like, that's what we don't realize when we're young. But the thing that makes you different is what makes you stand out. So I just wanted to echo that. And then I wanted to ask Malorie if she had any stories of anyone she knew being bullied as well.
Yeah, so one thing that you're seeing happen a lot on social media right now is people are going back and finding old tweets, old posts of yours that maybe weren't the best. And I think we're all guilty of posting things that we maybe regret or that we didn't think twice about. It's really part of the growing process.
Right.
One of the students that we work with really closely, he had a post that was screenshotted and shared on Twitter. And one thing about it was really taken out of context. So when the captions were moved and when you don't see the whole slideshow of all the photos that are included, it can really, really make a post look very negative. So his leadership group was actually posted about because of the name of their group for their leadership camp. And the leadership group was about Power Rangers. And so they each were assigned a color. So his group was assigned the white Power Rangers, which obviously is not great. That was not a good name. It probably wasn't thought very hard at the time.
Thought out, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. And so this student specifically didn't come up with the name. It wasn't something that they made up and that their group wanted to be called. But that post was taken on to Twitter, and it just became really, really negative and was about racism and just very, very targeted at that one student specifically, nobody else in the photo. So that student came to us and really just wanted advice. And I think one thing that was great about that post that Kim points out a lot is every single comment below it was all positive, supporting the student and talking about how it wasn't that student's fault, and it just kind of explaining the context behind the photo. But it did receive like 400 reshares. So that's one really negative thing about social media is when somebody takes it out of context, it blows up. But seeing that conversation had in the comments really, really was positive. And we had to show that student, like, look, this many people are standing up for you. But I think that situation could have been handled a lot better if the person who saw the post maybe went to the school and said, hey, we shouldn't be using these names for leadership camp. Here's why, and spreading that education point of it.
Yeah, and that brings up another really important point that I want to express, or I actually want Kim to answer this one. How important is it for everyone to realize and recognize before they post that things live online forever?
Right. Totally. My friend always loves that. I don't always use digital footprint. I think that footprint is not a good enough title for it. It's a digital tattoo, right? Like you're basically putting a tattoo and you put it out there. Like it's out there. And I'm constantly getting mad at my friends when they reshare things. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you resharing this? Like, because when you reshare, you're putting your name on there. You're saying my name is and I approve of it. So just, is this something that you approve of? Is this something that you want to put your name on and have it out there in the world? Because anybody can go back and take things out of context when, Black Lives Matter comes into play and they're angry.
For any reason. They're looking for, that kind of fuel to be able to fuel their fire even more. That's what people do when they're angry. They're looking for more fuel. So it's such a big thing. So just realizing it's not just a digital footprint, it's a digital tattoo is what you're leaving there. Yeah, so I guess there again, what you put out is it matters. And so um, I know we do it for fun and social, but you also have to take it somewhat seriously.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, I remember at first when we were getting online, it was like people thought they didn't need to spell correctly, they don't need to punctuate, they don't need to do all these things. But now more, it seems more so people are being a little bit more like, well, I don't want to look like I am illiterate or I don't understand, the human language or how to spell.
Mhm. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think people are also realizing the impact that they can make on social media and how much it can change the world. Even right now, you'll see in the last 4 months, we're making so much digital change that we weren't able to make in the past. I know one of the best posts that I've seen in the last couple months was a student actually made a website that blew up, and it was about Black Lives Matter. And I love this website because it incorporated all the education you needed to know, and then all of the updated petitions and everything that you're able to sign all at once. But what I loved about it was created by a student, and the student took that initiative to create change. And one thing I haven't seen is that student hasn't been tagged in any of the posts. They're just doing it because they don't want the recognition. They want to spread education. So just seeing students realize the impact that they're able to make and taking it really seriously and realizing that it's more than just a digital footprint, as Kim said, like it's a digital tattoo, and their digital tattoo is creating so much change now.
I do think it's a conversation to be had, and I think many times we think, I'm I'm not racist, I'm not racial, but you could look and pay attention to your language or maybe a phrase you picked up and recognize, like today I saw online, how can we word where they're saying Chinese fire drill? And I literally was thinking to myself, why was it called that in the first place? It made no sense to me. And equally, I was seeing how racist that truly was and offensive. So, like, I think just being able to have the conversation, to look at what you may or may not be doing to contribute to the problem. I think it's an important conversation to be had. And so I'm going to commend the student for taking initiative and trying to be, again, part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. You guys have been such like a blessing today. I've really, really enjoyed talking with you. And Malorie, you are such a light and
Thank
you are,
you.
yes, so vibrant and so like positive and wise for your years.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to come on today and talk about digital for good and how to use social media positively.
Oh my goodness. Now I see why Kim wanted you to come on with her. And Kim, I just want to also acknowledge you for having a heart for your students and truly caring, what happens to them and that it really matters to you, because I think a lot of times teachers get jaded over time, as far as maybe just there's too many kids in their class or too many maybe discipline problems or whatever. But I could really see your true love for the kids and the future and the youth of this nation and people out there. So I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you. Well, they're easy to love when you hear and you see that, you get to hear them and you get to see them and you get to hear that story, and there's real people behind that screen. So it's just kind of knowing that there's a story behind every human. And so once you
Yeah,
get to know it, it's hard to hate anyone when you get to know their story.
I love that. Love that. How can people support you and your organization?
There's
So
so many ways. Malorie, you get to lead it off.
yes, so there's so many ways that you can support us. One of the biggest ways is by following our social media pages and then sharing our content. So our Instagram page is at I Can Help Official. And then if you look us up on Facebook as well, we share a lot of our curriculum. So if you know any educators, principals, teachers, parents that are interested in any mental health curriculum, as well as Digital for Good curriculum, we share all of that on our Facebook, and you can also find that on our website.
I love that. Thank you so much, you guys. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. And if you get a chance, make sure you go by and support I Can Help and the other organization. Say it again, Digital for Good, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.